Okay, hi, my name is Anita Ezzo. I am the library's grants librarian, and I'm here to talk about one of the library's key funding databases, which is Foundation Directory Online. It's actually called Foundation Directory Online Professional, and it is the most really robust database out there for this type of information. Because it has, a scope, depth, currency that, is far surpasses any other database. With over 140,000 funders, over 1 million grant recipients, and 4 million grants added annually. It's getting data from a variety of sources, including grantmaker websites, published application guidelines, direct reporting from funders, as well as federal government grants. Now, this is the simple search box in which you can see there are some sample searches in there by way of illustration. At the top right, you see, hi, Michigan State University. You have access to this database because of the MSU Libraries subscription. Authorization is by NetID and password, so you can access this off campus. To initiate a search, you should describe in natural language, no Boolean operators needed here. So you describe what you're looking for funding for, who you are serving, and where they are located. So in this example, I'm looking for funding for health after school program for low-income children in Lansing, Michigan. I just put that in one big long string. But notice how my search terms got translated into the database's controlled vocabulary. So out of school learning, health, family services, Lansing, Michigan, children and youth, low-income people, program support. And these terms were parsed into the various search boxes for subject area, geographic focus, population served, and support strategy. Now, sometimes you may see terms in there that you think are inappropriate. Just X them out by clicking on the X to the right of the term, and you can get rid of those. By default, over the top of that subject area box, it says match any. There's a drop down where you could say match all these terms, meaning all of them would have to be present. Well, don't do that. It's really looking for, any of those. It would be quite restrictive if you asked to have them, all be present. Here are the results of that search, which are color-coded. So on the bottom you see in blue, it found 77 grant makers, 713 grants in the orange section there, and 82 recipients in teal. But I could cast a wider net and broaden my search by browsing that controlled vocabulary in those boxes. So I could look at their hierarchies, and I can choose something that's less specific than what I put in. So for example, in the population served box, when I click, I browse and I see that low-income people is a more restrictive term under economically disadvantaged. So by moving up that hierarchy, I'm casting a wider net. So now that I have moved it up to economically disadvantaged, I see on the bottom left that I've gone from 77 to 186 grant makers. I could also broaden my search by removing some of those fields. For example, population served and support strategy, because those fields are not really definitive, because that data is not present for all the grants that are in here. Because the only two required fields for every grant reported is subject area and geographic focus. So when I take out all that other stuff and I just enter stuff in those fields, I now move it up to 260. So these are ways that you can, do a more broad search if you don't feel you're getting enough results. Okay, but I'm returning now to my results of my initial search, which found the 77 grant makers. And here I'm looking at the top 5 listed by grant count or number of awards. Now, these are the funders who gave the most grants based on the words I put in. So they're going to be my best prospects based on their past giving. And to view more, I can click this blue View All button at the bottom right. When I do that, note that now at the top, I am giving an option here to filter these grant makers by and exclude the ones that aren't taking applications. Now that is not recommended, and Tim just alluded to that, because you may be able to reach out to this funder through foundation relations or other personal or professional contacts. So yeah, don't exclude them right off the bat. And when I click on the funder name, in this case, the W.K. Kellogre Foundation, I can view their profile. At the top, you're going to see 3 infographics, which depict what is being funded, which means their funding priorities, where the money is going nationally, and the size of the award. So you kind of get an idea of how much you could really ask for. And this is all based on just the last 5 years of data. You can click on these infographics to get more detail. For example, if you clicked on that location infographic, you could actually then choose to see a world map so that you could see the international giving patterns of the Kellogre Foundation, because they're not just giving money here in the US. But before you spend a lot of time looking at all of this, you should really scroll down the record to look at the funders' giving limitations that's listed under the applications RFPs section. So you can see right away if there's anything there that's going to disqualify you immediately. If you see the statement, applications not accepted, keep reviewing the profile. You should not just reject the funder until you've had a chance to see how closely their mission is aligning with your project goals, because there may be ways to contact these funders. Now, the profile is also going to have information on the most common grant amount awarded and the grants that they have awarded by year and size. So you can click on the recipient and you can see details of the grant. So here are the details for MSU's $35,000 grant in 2012 from the Kellogre Foundation. It's not a lot of detail, but it gives you an idea of what it was about. You can also see information on the grant maker's funding interest and information on their purpose and activities, background, and program areas if you click on the arrows to expand that section of the profile. The other funders to consider box is going to show you grant makers with similar patterns of giving, and that's based on subject area, geographic area served, and grant amounts. It's not based on those keywords that you searched in. So this is never going to change. These are always going to be brought up when you bring up the Kellogre Foundation. Okay, we looked at the grant makers. This is the orange grant sections of my search results. The 5 largest of the 713 grants are listed, and I can click on a recipient name to get more information on the award, which I'm showing you here in this inset. In this case, it was the Michigan Department of Community Health's 2019 $996,000 plus grant from the U.S. Food and Nutrition Service. This slide shows the grant recipient section of the search results, and we see the top 5 recipients listed by grant count. It's not by dollar amount. You can view the recipient profile by clicking on the name, and now you can see who's giving them money and the size of their grants. And this, by looking at this information, this might suggest potential funders for you. Now, to save grant maker list or profiles, you just click the View All button under that category. Then you mark the funders of interest by clicking in the check boxes there to the left of the name. And then you can use the tools, the tool icons on the top right, to download, email, or print them as a PDF file or export them to Excel. Now you're limited to doing, downloading or whatever, emailing 10 full profiles or 25 list results at a time. So you may need to save records in batches if you're wanting more than that. I also maintain a grants and related resources guide, which is going to provide a link to this Foundation Directory online database, as well as to a couple of other subscription grants databases, which we have, which I show in this insert here because they're kind of low on this particular page, Grant Select and Grant Station. But clearly the Foundation Directory Online is the premier database. On this guide, I also list proposal writing resources, many of which are electronic. So you can just click on the name of the book and then read it online. The print books which we have are chiefly in the main library's Funding Center collection, which is on the first floor of the East Wing, and you can check those out for 3 weeks. If you have questions or need assistance with a search, you can feel free to email or call me. I'm happy to meet with you in person. I have taken extensive training in the use of this FDO database, so I'm happy to consult with you. And you may, typically the process is that you are doing multiple searches. You're not just doing one search and then looking at 260 funders, but you're looking at the top ones, and then you do another search, maybe casting a little broader net, looking at those top funders and so forth. So it's kind of an iterative process. Okay, if you have questions, I'll take them on the end. And I do have a little card back there, which gives you the URL to the database and this guide.